America's top diplomat on Iran was only few minutes into speech on Tuesday afternoon when he was handed an urgent note. Brian Hook, the special representative for Iran, was in Los Angeles to talk about U.S. policy toward Iran. But by the time he stepped to the podium, he was already more than an hour late, having spent much of the day on secure line speaking to U.S. officials in Washington, including his boss, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and now, he had to leave. The peoples of Iraq and Lebanon and Iran, they want their country back, Hook said. And they are tired of Iran being unable to stay within its own borders. Thank you. With that, Hook walked briskly off stage. America's defense apparatus was spinning into action. Minutes earlier, U.S. intelligence satellites had picked up signs of heat signature from Iran, suggesting the country had just launched short-range ballistic missiles. The U.S. knew an impending attack was likely, thanks to tip from the Iraqi government, which had been told by the Iranians an attack was coming and which bases to avoid, still, using information from the satellites and U.S. aircraft in the region, which had intercepted Iranian communications. U.S. intelligence analysts quickly determined that two bases in Iraq were the targets, Al-Assad and Erbil. Within minutes, U.S. troops stationed there were warned. They'd already been on high alert and sought safety in bunkers. According to source familiar, troops took short-term cover the day before out of concern of possible attack. Now, the threat was imminent, and the troops were told of incoming missiles. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the official announcement went out: Iran had launched more than a dozen ballistic missiles against U.S. military and coalition forces in Iraq, just 5 days after killing Iran's top military leader, Qasem Soleimani, in drone strike in Baghdad. This was the moment that the Trump administration had been preparing for: direct retaliatory attack from Iran. News of the missile strike came as the administration had spent days stuck in chaotic series of self-inflicted wounds. First, Trump had threatened to target Iranian cultural sites. Then there was the shocking letter announcing the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq that the Pentagon had to walk back as mistake. It all raised questions about the administration's handling of the situation, and even had some Republican allies of the president privately expressing concern about whether the administration was truly prepared to deal with the events it had unleashed with the Soleimani strike. The moment wasn't lost on Trump's top aides, who convened in the basement Situation Room knowing that the ensuing hours could redeem chaotic several days, or cement the impression of rudderless ship. On Tuesday evening, aides watched as the situation went from the potential for dramatic conflict to one that seemed to offer Trump new opportunity to de-escalate. Bolstered by incoming messages from Iran sent through back channels, Trump's aides realized the damage would be limited. Iran appears to be standing down, which is good thing for all parties concerned and very good thing for the world, Trump said on Wednesday morning. The following account of the events that unfolded over the past are based on interviews with dozens of Trump administration officials, foreign diplomats, as well as staffers and top lawmakers on the Hill. Within an hour of the strikes, leaders on Capitol Hill were being briefed. In the House, Speaker Nancy Pelosi was discussing the situation in Iran with a group of top Democrats when she was handed note with news of rocket attack on U.S. military base in Iraq. Among those present was Representative Dan Kildee, who told CNN that Pelosi paused the discussion to alert members of the situation. Pray, Pelosi told members, according to Representative Debbie Dingell. Not long after, Pelosi got on the phone with Vice President Mike Pence, who briefed her on the Iranian attacks. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer also received call from Pence around the same time and was briefed on the attack. Meanwhile, GOP leaders were getting briefed directly by the president. At the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Mark Esper met with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and senior defense officials as soon as he got word of the attack. Less than an hour after news broke of the Iranian strike, Esper's office reached out to Iraqi Prime Minister Adel Abdul al-Mahdi, who just days earlier had criticized the U.S. drone strike on Soleimani as flagrant violation of the conditions for the presence of the American forces in Iraq. At first, Esper's team couldn't get through. It was around 8 a.m. in Baghdad and the number the Pentagon had for Mahdi's office wasn't working, said source familiar with the outreach. They contacted the ambassador in Washington at home, who managed to connect the two parties. After making few calls to senior congressional officials, Esper and Army General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, headed to the White House.